My name is Patricia Wiklund. I'm the founder and CEO of Invenire. That's really a company with a mission. We try to help leaders who want to create thriving business out of sustainability, keeping sustainability at the core. And we try to transform existing businesses and create new businesses through strategy, design, and conversation. And conversation is really what we're going to do here with this half an hour that we have time for right now. I'll just time us so that we'll stick to the time as well, because we've been told to keep it short. With me here today, I have three brilliant people to talk about the potential of marine ingredients. We have Ragnhild Whittaker, who is Research Manager, Marine Biotechnology at Nofima in Norway. We have Pia Winberg, coming from overseas, from Australia, CEO of Venus Shell Systems. And we have Trond Helgerud, Alginate Commercial Technology Manager and Managing Director for FMC Biopolymer here in Norway. So it's the Scandinavians and the Nordic people taking over the stage now, more or less. Even Australia is Swedish. Okay, at the reception yesterday, there you could already sense the feel of this whole event. It's like the industry has sort of took on new lenses, looking at the own industry in quite new ways, with new eyes, seeing a lot of potential in many interesting areas that we heard also this morning about: circular economy, zero waste, finding new applications for ingredients that we already know, finding new ingredients to use, and so on. And we'll try to look a little bit on this, at this potential in this session, and see if we're sort of reaching the tipping point for the future here and for the future markets. And I think, Pia, I will start with you. You run a business focused on seaweed, which I've been told is sort of Australia's greenest marine biotech startup. And I'm going to ask you to start with a really passionate pitch for the business of marine ingredients and its future. So the question to you first is, what makes marine ingredients so unique and filled with business potential, and why are they worth investing in?
So thanks for the introduction. And marine ingredients is what everybody's here about. I think in a lot of ways, whether it's a whole salmon, that's not an ingredient, but it's. But otherwise, many people here are focused on actual ingredients and recognise already the potential in them. But if we try and simplify it and pull the really clear messages out from the cloud of opportunity that there is, it's sometimes the cloud of opportunity can get very confusing, whether it's at the small business execution stage, which is where we're at, and we've had to recognise we need to focus to execute. But also in the big cloud of opportunity, I think we need to get a coherent and clear story out to the rest of the world, to industries, to customers of our ingredients, so that we have our clear, unique selling points. And I mean, marine ingredients aren't just on the cusp, they're already there. I mean, one of the main deficiencies in human health and nutrition, and that will be the focus of our discussions, is nutrition and cosmetic supplements and things like that, is of course the omega-3 story. And it's qualified that the West is very deficient, or a bit like large part of the world is incredibly deficient in omega-3, and omega-3 is there. It's there for the long term, and it's not going to go away, whether it's from the algae, the salmon, or the krill. Omega-3 is already a massive marine ingredient, and it will stay there, and we're still going to need it. Indeed, we've done clinical trials in Australia in our local prisons linking aggression and impulsive behaviour to blood deficiencies in omega-3. So, we're collaborating with Norwegians in that research as well, and so omega-3 is not going away. It's not a fad, it's here to stay. And so that's a key selling point for marine ingredients. But what else is unique about the marine ingredients? And seaweeds is where I really focus, and our company is about growing seaweed for some of these unique selling points. And from our perspective, what the ocean offers in seaweed that's very unique and distinct from land is the polysaccharides, the very complex gels or slime, if you like, from seaweeds. And these too are already a commodity. They're not fly-by-day sort of new ingredient popping up. I mean, we'll have people talking here already about alginates and carrageenans that are well-established commodities. They're huge production, and they're coming from our marine environment now. It's not a potential, it actually is. But the potential is in what is exploring some of the unique properties of these. And the unique thing about the seaweed gels is the affinity with the human body, whether it be on the skin or inside the body or in regenerating new tissues for the body. I mean, the analogues for what the seaweed connective tissue is our own skin connective tissue. It's our own joint health connective tissue. It's the mucus linings in our digestive systems. And what's really exciting is that this area of glycobiology, if you like, or slime biology, is that the molecules are very, very specific and have very specific functions. So if we learn to identify and harness the structure of these molecules and then commercialize them in very specific applications, there's so many areas to commercialize and that don't compete. Everyone's got a piece of activity to work in because not one company can do it all. And that's one that we've really focused on, is a unique Australian seaweed with a very unique sulfated polysaccharide. And we've shown that these applications in health and cosmetics are very species specific. You can't take that molecule from one seaweed and it's the same in the next one. And it's a bit like that in the drug industry, is looking for consistency and has been through manufacture, synthetic production of molecules. You can't do that with these seaweeds too easily because they're so big and complex. And what we really got an opportunity to do is to quality control the whole system from the species that we're growing, controlling the molecules through to production, the clinical evidence into an application, and executing that is I think, where the opportunity lies, and it's huge.
Very good. Ragnhild, you research and develop new technologies and products derived from marine ingredients, and you have really a special interest in finding potential in unused biomasses and fishery side streams and waste streams, which is a very, very hot topic. So what would you define as sort of the hottest market trends and new opportunities in unused biomasses right now?
Well, there's a lot of unused biomass, but I think what we have to look at what we have. We can't just, there's a lot of news coming up, but what is it, what's abundant, what can we use? And so there's a lot of I'm not allowed to say waste, but byproducts, we don't call it waste, from fisheries. Right. We use a lot of researchers to get the fish out of the ocean, and then we throw away a large part of it. Yeah. And so that needs to sort of change. We need to take care of that, and there are ways to do that. It's not very appetitely, it doesn't look good when you look at it in the way that it is. But we can process it using the right processing methods, the right biotechnology, and we can get it into products, protein or oil-based, that can be used as nutrition or as cosmetics, not usually applicable for pharma because we're trying to use masses and not synthesize new ones, but it's, I think, fish byproducts, fisheries byproducts, especially whitefish, where there's a lot of mass right now. But there's other areas like snow crab, which is an exploding industry in Norway, where 95% of it now is processed, which means that you cut off the clusters, you cook the clusters, and you sell the clusters, and then you throw away the entire housing of the snow crab. In that snow crab, there's enormous potential both in oil and protein and polymer-derived products that we should look at using, and we are developing technologies and products from that. There's also this morning, Sister Rognes talked about mesopelagic fish. As soon as we have the fishing technology to get those out of the ocean, I think those will be a huge resource. And I also think that's not a waste stream, that's just a new stream, but it's not maybe directly edible because it looks disgusting and it tastes bad. So that could be, something that we can use and process it into very good protein products and very good oil products. We do know that fish protein, marine protein, is extremely healthy. There's a number of publications out there showing that it's healthy, but we just don't know why it's healthy. We don't really have control over the processes from fish waste as we have from algae, because that's one product all the time. But from fish, we get, different mastices, depends on the season, it depends on what they ate, it depends on how they are different. So we need to have control of those processes, and that's what we're working on in Nofima, to have control from the chemistry going in, the product going in, the whole process, and the product coming out. So yes, the hottest trends is I think new species like snow crabs, mesopelagic fish when we can get it, and then also the unused biomass from the fisheries. I think those are the three biggest ones.
Okay. Trond, you represent a company that has worked with seaweed for more than 50 years. And trends come and go, you know that. And however, seaweed seems to be experiencing a bit of a renaissance and new beginnings right now. So how do you approach the opportunities for business growth in general in your company, and what areas are of particular interest right now for you?
Okay, so like I mentioned, I mean, we've been working with seaweeds for many years, and we have specialized in alginate, which is a biopolymer for foods, pharmaceuticals, and cosmetics, personal care. So we find this new interest in seaweeds very inspiring. There is a Norwegian report from 2012 named Value Creation Based on Productive Oceans 2050. And this actually predicts a growth from the 2010 revenues of approximately 1.1 billion NOK up to about 40 billion NOK in 2050. So there is a huge growth predicted, and I think this is quite realistic. So we have over the years invested a lot in our alginate operations, and we see strong competition from Chinese manufacturers and other manufacturers based in other areas. We don't expect newcomers into the alginate type of industry. But we see that for us, it's going to be very important to invest in developing new products based on alginate, new products for biomedicine, new products for pharmaceuticals, new products that will kind of require our expertise in alginates. One example of this is the 3D bioprinting with alginate that is now developing very fast, where you can actually build structures with living cells and support that with alginate and make like new organs, etc. So we are also following the development of seaweed cultivation with great interest. Sometimes for us as a company, it's difficult to see the market potential. It's difficult to see that people have done a good job on the business case behind these investments. So I think that is one that needs to be one of the focuses for this type of initiatives going forward. I think there is a huge opportunity for growth in growing seaweeds, but it needs also to focus on what is actually the market. We ourselves are also looking at new polysaccharides from seaweeds. Fucoiden is one example. Polysaccharide with bioactive properties, and which is very specific to the species that we are harvesting. So we definitely see growth opportunities there.
So there seems to be a lot of potential around. If we sort of look at the second part of the theme of today, is also how to harvest that potential, and what is really needed in the ingredient industry to reach this tipping point. If I come back to Pia on that question, from your perspective, what is really needed for the marine ingredients industry to reach this potential?
We're coming from a different scale, if you like, from companies like FMC, who already recognises people who have been the innovators and the drivers of what was a new technology in seaweed polymers, and in the last century has really exploded into a commodity. But if we discuss and recognise in common is this opportunity for the uniqueness of these polymers to be put into specific applications. And so as a small company and a research and development heavy focused company, that's where we see we need to put a lot of our effort is into the research and the evidence to make claims, to have applications that are functional and very consistent and traceable back through the whole processing stream. And our approach to this has been, because we're small, we can tackle this, is that we're not only now growing the seaweed and providing a clean green background to the whole production system, but we've travelled up through the processing, through the formulating into whether it's a food or a cosmetic, and then giving the science and the substance behind that, and now talking to the markets and having that market pull about what does the market want, how can we change this, and focusing on what is the product. Because before it's been, here's a whole plethora of marine ingredients and what does the industry do with it? We have to really be engaging with the marketplace and saying, what is the product you want? Let's create those prototypes and let's execute those prototypes and not be distracted by the whole plethora of opportunity that is behind there, but to stay very well aware. For example, the 3D bioprinting is a really exciting area that we're involved in as well. But some really tangible track records for these new products is what's needed. And to really embrace the rigour in the actual substances. I mean, recently I went to some plant industries, and the plant crops, I mean, they're already well established, we know that, but they aren't really there yet in quality control and consistency. The industries have been around for a long time, the farms have been around for a long time. We were an opportunity to really harness and lead in the chain of traceability in marine products. And I think that if we do that, that's a real competitive edge that we'd come to the new supplements and cosmetics markets with. It's what the cosmetic companies are looking for, is the traceability in the story. And if the marine industry can embrace that traceability and evidence-based knowledge behind our ingredients, I think that's where we can really fly and grow and replace some of the land-based production, but also add to the scale of everything.
Yeah. Okay. I think, Ragnhild, I'm going to repeat the same question to you.
Yeah.
From your perspective, what is needed for the marine ingredients to reach this tipping point?
I couldn't agree with you more. I always say that there's a huge mass of opportunity of bioactive compounds that you can find in any sort of marine biomass, but you can't just make it because you can. You know, there's got to be a market pull for it, and we always say the same thing, and I'm just nodding to. It's like people make whatever they can make out of marine ingredients, but they don't see if there's a market for it, both in food and in cosmetics. In food, of course, there's a challenge for fish-derived ingredients in that the taste and the smell of it can be challenging. And so you need to develop methods in order to do that. And also, when I talk about developing methods, we need to have methods to scale up.
Yeah.
And in Norway, there is a focus on publicly financed scale-up facilities. Nofima runs one of them, where you can take your product, the process that you tested out in the lab scale, and you can try it out on a larger scale and then try it in the market, because you know that it's needed, but you also need to know that the consumer likes it. And so these publicly financed scale-up plants, they are designed in such a way that they're extremely flexible, so that many different companies or researchers or academics can come in and try their processes, optimize them, change them a little bit, and then when they're ready, they're established in the market. They have a product that they know how much it costs, they know what the return on investment is on them. They can maybe invest in their own plant or go with somebody else and get their own plant in it. So demonstration plants that are publicly financed that can help translate research innovation into commercialization is also one of the really huge steps in order to get these products into the market.
Yeah. So you two agree quite a lot on what's
yeah,
needed right now.
And talking to the customer, I mean, that's so important. And even now, I'm in good publications now in Australia, like Men's Health magazine, and that's getting me sales. You know, like if I have to go into Men's Health, that's great. We'll go into Men's Health. But talking to that customer, we're doing MasterChef events, that sort of thing. I think sometimes stepping out of academia or even in industry, we're not necessarily talking to the consumers, and the consumers want marine ingredients. We'd have to just find the pathway to make it easy for them to access it now.
Yeah. Well, if we look a little bit from a different angle and look at the sort of key hurdles, because there's still this unlocked potential, especially in the renewable biomasses, but there are also key hurdles. And if you look at what's ahead, what do you think is needed for facilitating business growth in the marine ingredients. So what are the challenges? They talked about all the great things, but what are the real challenges?
Right. So first of all, I think very good points here, both from Pia and Ragnhild. But as an established industry, I mean, we have some other challenges as well. I think I may actually put it very short and say that there are three things that will be very important for us. First of all, predictability. To be able to have predictability in resource management, to be able to know that we can go back and do the seaweed harvesting year after year and keep a stable supply. So that is going to be very important to convince our senior management that they need to invest and continue to invest in our business. So that's important for growth. And of course, in order to get predictability, I think we need to have the right regulatory and management systems in place. So really to make sure that the authorities are supporting the regulatory processes around access to new resources, to make sure that there is sufficient expertise in the system to really see the picture of the kind of new things coming. That's going to be very important. And then it's also going to be very important to think about sustainability. We, as an industry, want to utilize the resources. We want to go into new areas. We sometimes struggle with kind of the national bureaucracy and regulations in order to do that. So we need to sort that out. But we also need to make sure that we are utilizing the raw materials even better. We need to make sure that we also kind of relate to the regulations and limitations in a good way. These need to be based on good science and good documentation. We can't really live with opinions and kind of just, I mean, we think that this and that. We really need to have good science backing our resource management, and that's very important for us.
Very good. Looking at time here, you're rushing.
Now you're giving us strict instructions.
I'm impressed.
But I can add to the
add a little bit.
Sustainability side of it. I mean, I think on a big scale, it's a given. Like seaweed and fisheries at a well-managed level, and then aquaculture on top of that. I mean, the ocean is a frontier of sustainability, so that's just tick. We've got that story as long as we respect it and stay within those boundaries. I think we have to respect it, not fight it. Respect for it is part of our marketing strategy as well. Is it ticking the life cycle analysis? The customer is now looking back all the way to the source and wants the story. And if we respect and work, I mean, Australia is highly regulated, and I see that as part of our unique selling proposition now. Is people are looking for seaweeds, but they actually say we don't want it from China or we don't want it from Japan, where they unfortunately have had some incidents to contaminate seaweeds. So we recognise that Australia's high regulation environment has set the platform for us to deliver a story of good quality and sound production and sustainability of production. So that's the tick. And but then on top of that, the actual ingredients for the markets, and we can inject ourselves into some very important chronic deficiencies, and that, as I mentioned, is omega-3, as well as the gels for dietary fibre. Dietary fibre is a thing we're focusing on, and it's not just fibre as usual from before. I mean, expect that 35% of Australians will be obese, not overweight, obese in 2025, 35%. I mean, to change and turn that around is not going to be easy in terms of everybody starting new food practices. We have an opportunity to inject the nutrition that's missing. It's the omega-3s, it's the dietary fibres, and that's a huge opportunity that's not going away.
Quick comment, Rond.
Okay, so we can solve the problem of obesity with alginate, by the way, so we need to talk about that. But I think also when we're talking about the utilization of seaweed, talking about the utilization of marine resources, it's important to keep the national picture. We cannot afford to kind of sub-optimize and kind of create businesses that are distributed out at different places. We need to think nationally to be competitive in this market. So we really need to think about national management of national resources. And I think that's going to be extremely important going forward.
Very good. Thank you, the three of you. Now as you see, we just created a little teaser for you. You heard a little bit of what these people are doing. Find them in the courses and the networking and talk more to them. As you see, there's a lot of potential. The things that need to be in place are transparency, traceability, trust and origin. Very important factors when you want to create something out of the market. So thank you for your time. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.